welcome to Tales from the Albright, a podcast by the Scranton Public Library. Today we are doing a bit of a different type of episode. We got slides donated from Chris Leedy, who used to work here up in Reference, correct?
That's right.
So it'll be more of an interview type podcast episode with Scott, who was here at the time that all of the slides were taken and created. So we're going to try and put them into the episode, but for those who are listening to the podcast, we are going to describe what they look like. Since that is, you can't really look at things if you're driving around or gardening. So
We'll try to be accurate.
yeah. So the first slide that you chose was from Reference. And it is a woman talking on the phone, writing down notes. You can clearly tell that it's before the computers because there's no computers in sight. And it appears to me to be at where the reference desk is now, with the shelves behind the person sitting there with the shelves of books.
As far as we can tell, well, the background is that these were taken in 1984, and the head of Reference, her name, as Alyssa said, was Chris Leedy, and she decided she wanted to make an argument for more funding to the library administration and developed a slideshow for the board. Nowadays, you do that in PowerPoint or something like that. In those days, you actually did a slideshow with a slide projector. And luckily, she preserved the slide. She is in Ohio now, but was nice enough to send them to us. And Alyssa, I believe that this desk may have been where we're sitting right now.
Oh, okay.
There was shelves in the corner here. And one thing that, and we're going to do a lot of, Alyssa, you, because you do the desk now.
Yeah.
Basically, in 1984, we did 6,912 phone reference questions. I don't think...
No. No, I imagine that's down significantly.
Yeah.
We do get a lot of phone calls still, though.
But it would ring constantly, multiple lines and that kind of thing, because people would be calling and saying, what's the definition of a word? And trying to settle they're in a bar, they want to settle a sports bet, all kinds of questions. Some of them very involved, some of them not so much. So that's one of the big differences was telephone reference. And so this woman, her name was Lynn Brandt. We have her picture there on the phone. So we did a lot of that in those days.
And she kind of has a great style, too. She has, like, the vest and a white shirt.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. And the phone cord.
Yeah.
There, so yes.
I mean, we still have the corded phones,
Yeah.
so that hasn't changed. But we do get significantly fewer calls.
Mm-hmm.
But we still get the questions about definitions and questions for directions and a lot of questions about, like, how much printing costs. But so we still get them. And we always welcome people to call if they have any questions that we can possibly help with. And then we have the second slide, which is another woman in a sweater with a box on the phone. And you can tell in this one that it was more of the rotary style phone.
Yes, she can.
Yeah.
And she has a Christmas cactus, which maybe, do we still have that?
I know we do have a Christmas cactus,
It could
so
be
it's
the
possible.
same one. It could be the same one. And yes, I think she was trying to do some other work while she was on desk, which still happens. Trying to get work done between helping patrons, which is why she has that box there. So, and there is a Rolodex.
Yes, we still have that.
You still have the Rolodex.
It's up on the shelf.
Okay.
We look at it every once in a while.
Some of the stuff is still around.
Yeah.
After all these years.
Yeah. Yeah. We expanded the plants. We now have the poinsettias that are somehow still going after like 4 years. And then we have a spider plant. So we have all the plants. It's very nice.
You may have a decades-old Christmas cactus
Yes.
for all we know. Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It would, yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then we're on to the images of microfilm. So in the first one, there are two people using two different microfilm machines. We still have two microfilm machines. One's digital with the actual computer, and then one is the standard desktop, old school one that you can use either.
And these people seem to be looking at old newspapers. Is that still the case, Alyssa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have almost all of the Scranton Times on microfilm. We have some of the few local papers, like the Moscow Villager. We have birth and death indexes, along with other miscellaneous papers and different backlogs. I think we have next door, I believe there's a New York Times microfilm section and Good Housekeeping, I want to say. If we don't have the microfilm of Good Housekeeping, I'm pretty sure we have physical copies of old editions. But for the most part, most people come in to look at the newspaper.
And so that much hasn't changed.
Yeah.
The actual viewing of it hasn't changed. But if we go to the next slide, the printing is different. Nowadays, they print to a printer. And they come and they release using a credit card or coins or dollar bills, actually, these days. They're print jobs.
Yes.
And it's the same printer that you use for just normal printing and for photocopying and everything. In those days, everything was different. You could see that it says a little 25 cents. You put a coin in, and that machine had its own coin box. And every machine we had that we charged people for printing had its own coin box. And so someone's job it was to empty these coin boxes every day. And so that was hard to maintain because each machine and had its own maintenance needs. So now it's actually easier to maintain what we do now because it's all going to the same, everything's going to the same printer, much more efficient.
Yes.
Definite advantage to the digital age.
Yeah, and I remember because when I first started here, we still had the microfilm machines in the center of the reference room, and the ink for it would just get everywhere.
Yeah, I remember this one had liquid ink. Yeah, it was messy job.
Yeah.
Messy job.
Okay, and then we're on to shelves of books, essentially. So the first one is business resources, which in the image, they're against the wall. It's typical shelves and different Princeton files, which are the metal sleeves that you often see the magazines in up here, and just binders and books themselves on business resources.
And so what would happen is nowadays, say you have a 401k or something, or you have some stocks or whatever you have, and you want to know how it's doing, or maybe you want to change it, you just go online and find it. In those days, they would come here and get something called Moody's. Moody's still exists, I believe, as an entity, but I'm not sure it does actually. But anyway, they would come here, and there's regular people who would come every day or every couple of days, and we'd update that. And you can see how your particular investments are doing and going to do. And obviously, a lot of people use the Wall Street Journal for that as well. That was a very popular newspaper in those days. So we had a lot of business resources for investors.
Yeah, I believe now we still get Wall Street Journal, and then we get Kiplinger now that you can come in and look at.
You can look at, yep.
And then we have the collection of phone books. So this was located that was in, what's the reference room now? The Barrel Vault room, correct?
Yes, the room that now we call the Barrel Vault room, a nice open room, had shelves in it. The public could not enter beyond the first part of it because we would get stuff for you. And one of those things, the stuff were phone books from all over the country, major metropolitan areas, and from the entire state of every Pennsylvania phone book we had, and the major metropolitan areas. So you wanted a phone number of a used car lot in Houston, we could get it for you because you could not go online and do that kind of thing. Or you wanted the name of a chiropractor in Johnstown, we could get it for you using these phone books. And they kept coming in, and this woman who was here, her name was Seal. I remember her well. Her job was to make sure they're in order, and a new one would come in, you toss the old one out. So that was a different world, certainly.
Yeah, today we still have phone books, but only for Scranton. And we still have them in the back, and we have a few at the desk. We also have the city directories up until the most current one, which I think is 2023. I'm not sure if we have a 2024 one yet. But we still get them. So we have the local information, and they're also good to look back at past years if you're trying to track where you might have grew up or something along those lines.
So Alyssa, I mean, I'm curious, and people out there too. Why would you need a Scranton phone book here?
Because some people prefer to look up information in the phone book rather than online. Also, online there's a lot of websites that compile different phone numbers and addresses, and they're not always accurate, where the phone book is more standardized and accurate to what phone numbers are out there. The only issue is that most often cell phones aren't listed. So if a person has moved to only cell phone, it won't be included, most likely.
And one thing that was interesting about those days, there is also a blue book. We don't have a picture of it, called the Crisscross Directory. You can look up someone's address and find out who lived there. We would get bill collectors calling several times a day. So, can you tell me who lives at 306? And trying to track down someone who owes money, and that put some staff in a moral quandary. And there's numerous discussions about policy. So that's an issue that now, of course, people have many more ways of tracking down someone who owes money. But that was one of the things we did. Okay.
And then the next one I have is magazines. And it looks like a woman using something to, oh, wait, is that opening?
Yeah, I can explain what that is, Alyssa.
Do.
Okay, so in those days, we would get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of magazines of all sorts. And in those days when they could not be gotten online, we were the biggest public library in the northeastern part, 5 counties in the northeastern corner of the state. We had to maintain complete runs of them. So it was someone's job. And this woman in the picture, you can't really see it. There's this drawer you pull out, and there's these little cards, and you pull out the card, and you say, okay, Commerce Business Daily, and you mark that it came in, okay, with a pencil. Is she using a pencil? I think she is.
Yeah, she is.
You would mark that it came in, and if it didn't come in after a certain period of time, it was someone's job to claim them. And contact the person who, the publisher or whoever the supplier is, and say, we didn't get this, can you send it to us, because we had to have complete runs. And every day the mail would come and someone would spend at least an hour, if not more, processing magazines and getting them ready. So that was like, in a lot of libraries, especially academic ones, a full-time job. Maintaining the serials, it was really important. So that has changed a bit.
Yeah, now it's a bit simpler. We don't get nearly as many magazines. We do keep track of all of them in a spreadsheet still. And I know more so with newspapers, if they don't come, I know we have a number that we call, and we're like, hey, we didn't get the New York Times today. What's going on? So we still call and we still keep track. And then we keep magazines for 2 years. So you can come in and look if you find out some article you want to read is in like the July of 2023 edition. It's likely possible that we'll have it here if it's one of the magazines that we do keep. I also noticed in this photo, at the very top of the shelf, is that a photo of Elizabeth Sellers Albright next to the Albright homestead?
Yes, I believe it is. I believe it is.
So that's fun.
Yeah. You can find all kinds of things in here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't know why there's a sticker on her little file that says Miller Time. We don't know why. I just noticed that. So yeah, these are interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting photos. So.
And then the next one are all of the magazines in the little cases that we have for them. And we still have, I think, like 12 of them. But here, there's definitely way more, as there's up to 157 just shown in the photo.
You can see by the numbering how many we got. And so you can see some of the titles a little bit here, like Motor Trend and Motor World. And they're in alphabetical order. We're happy to report Paper Shop and Organic Gardening. Boy, they bring back memories of I've had Popular Science.
Yeah.
So we've all spent our time someone calls off sick, it was your job to process the magazines and stamp them and hope you did it right, because they would get mad at you if you didn't.
Imagine. It's probably everyone was so in their system and like how they did it, and
Yeah, oh
it
yeah.
was just standardized. And then we have an image of the barrel vault room when it had all of the shelving. And you can see the stained glass window in the back. I forget which one is who has the pillars, but you can see them and the step stool that would be used to get things.
They're still around, those
Yeah, they are.
stools. So what would happen is now, in those days, you wanted the previous picture was of the current magazines, but say, oh, I want last week's. I want last week's, because the most recent ones are the most recent Rolling Stones. Oh, I want last month's Rolling Stone. You'd give me a little slip, and I would go in the back and pull it from the barrel vault room, which is now a beautiful wide open room. In those days, I had you go in there, you see a bunch of bookshelves that look like in this picture. So tight, and those beautiful stained glass windows hidden. And so, but that was somebody's job. And you can see in this picture, some older magazines are bound. That's what libraries would do. Then after they're no longer current, you take a year's worth or 6 months worth and you bind them. And that's so you'd have a complete run that way. So it was quite something.
And I find it interesting that in the photo we just talked about, and then the next one, there's also the like laminate solid floor instead of the carpet like we have now.
Yeah, the building was renovated most recently in 2008, I believe. So we've made changes to it. Yeah, quite different.
And then in the second one, it looks like there's the backlog of newspapers in that one.
And so we would keep newspapers until the microfilm came in, and there would be a little wait there too. So we would, if you needed an older, I need last week's Scranton Times, we can go and get it for you. So we kept a lot of paper around, a lot of paper. So
yeah, we did that up until recently as well. And now the microfilm comes in pretty consistently and very soon after the month's over. So it's kind of dwindled a lot. And then we have government documents. This photo, it looks like it's back on third floor because of the ceiling, which are the wooden beams in the white. And it's just all sorts of bound volumes, loose volumes, just all packed into shelving.
So what would happen is that the federal government and the state government basically designated libraries and regions to be what they call depositories. So you would get a certain percentage of the government documents for free, okay? And your job was, when you got them, you make them available to people, and you get inspected, by the way. The feds would come and inspect you every now and then. And I think, and then as someone who's out there who has better memory, who worked here, might remember, I think it was, we got like 20% or something like that. It was, there's a lot of government documents that were produced, but we would get them, and it was, again, someone's job to check them in, and we would put them on the shelf, and people could come in and look at census data, and look at topographical maps was another popular one, and military information and federal budgets. Obviously the federal government and the state government have gone almost exclusively online at this point, to the point where getting paper tax forms is even a problem.
Yep. Yeah.
So that has changed.
We still have some government documents, not nearly as many, and they are going digital, so we won't really be getting any in. I think there's just a few things that they're sending, and I think it's more of like statutes and the more solid codes and laws that we'll probably still be getting. But for a while, we had the microfiche version of a lot of documents as well, and they ended that, I think, a year or two ago. So
there was microfilm and microfiche, and microfiche was these little sheets, and microfilm was on a reel, and the microfilm was always hard to this day to kind of get going. But so there's different formats that you had to know how to use them, you had to know how to print them. So my first day here, it was pretty scary, but anyway.
And then on the next image, we have a woman at the desk and with a sign that says, "We now have both beta and VHS formats."
Yep. Yep. And I believe that is Carol Hogan's in that photo. And yeah, so the library was always at the forefront of these changes in media. And we had 16 millimeter before my time, okay? Up until the 80s, I would assume. And then then we had Betamax, and then we had VHS. We also got Laserdiscs briefly when they came out, and DVDs and Blu-ray now. And you can also get streaming from us. So we stay on top of all
Yeah.
that, and then that's ever changing. And so something we have adopted, and that was always somebody's job, to come in and make sure that this woman, one of her jobs was to repair VHS tapes that would break.
Oh, wow.
She was a master at it. She would take and tape them, because people would watch
Yeah.
them, and then it's broke. It got stuck in my machine, and this now we have to clean DVDs every now and then. We have a machine that does that, so it's always something like that.
I also noticed that there's like a little stuffed mascot there
What
too.
is that?
I
It's a
don't know.
graduation.
Yeah, it's definitely graduation. It might be a graduation owl.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We don't know why. These are mysteries.
No, I mean, we do have a little reference mascot now. Somebody left a lump of coal at one of the computers, so we named it Nicole and gave it like a little face and a bow.
Really?
Yeah, it's up on the shelf.
So, so we went from an owl to coal.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Very Scranton.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And then we have the film shelves.
Yep. And again, I was talking. What are some of the titles here, Alyssa? Kayak, I see.
Yeah, kayak.
We don't know what these are, but we did have a 60 millimeter collection that people would borrow. And folks who were in school at this time remember, the AV person rolling in a movie projector, and then you'd watch a movie in class, and that was good because watching a movie meant you didn't really have to do anything. You just sit and watch it. We like movies. So
Yeah. I can't tell what they are. There's some part two. I get like part one, part twos, but I can't tell what the whole title is, unfortunately. And then we have a group of students at tables. Was that on this side?
yes.
Yes.
The yellow paint was in this room now. In this picture, you'll see a lot of bookshelves. This entire room around its perimeter was bookshelves of reference books, and now originally, when the library was built, this was supposed to be a lecture hall. Throughout most of the 20th century, it was the reference room, and now it is a lecture hall again. Because all the reference sources in particular went electronic. We have a fraction of print now. And students, Central High School was across the street from us, which is now Lackawanna College. And so the students were required to come here. So we'd see a lot of them, and they're here. Some of them looking not so happy about being here. So
Yeah, you have the like classic 80s blue duffel bag. And it looks like the one gentleman is wearing just one of like the knit sweaters, and there's the yellow blazer. And then the person in the back has the like leather jacket with the hood.
And the hairstyles there's a lot of hair.
Yes. Perms.
Yeah, perms, yeah. And in the next one, these folks are at the photocopying machine, and it was popular. It was popular. That was particularly popular right before closing time, which in those days was 9 p.m. It was often hard to get people because they're in the middle of a 30-page photocopying job at like 5 to 9, and you wanted to go home,
Yeah.
of course. But now we still get photocopying,
Yes,
a lot
very
of
much
printing.
so. Yeah.
In those days, you put a coin in, okay? It was 10 cents. And then we got a card system. Now you can pay by credit card, and you can put a dollar bill in or something. But we still photocopy here.
Yeah, and it looks like this was taken in winter. People are in their puffy coats with the hood with the fur. And then we have another photo of just a swarm of people at all of the tables. Everywhere's pretty full.
And that was this room again, and you could see the bookshelves on on the perimeter, and it was busy that day. It was very busy that
Yes.
day, as it was most days, certainly, with a lot of students you can see in there. You can see a lot of students. So
Do we know what the photos were on the wall?
I just saw those, and we do not know, and they don't exist anymore. You find things sometimes. You find things in these old photos, and they're still around. Like,
Yeah. I know we still have the photo of Elizabeth Sellers Albright and then
Yeah.
the Albright homestead. Like those are definitely still here.
And I mean, one of the things you see here is how crowded it was with stuff, okay,
Yes.
and how crowded it was with people. And the more stuff made it look more great, but it was busy. A lot of the people who visit us now don't physically come in here; they're coming online to get their ebooks and things and their databases and things like that. So back in those days, you physically had to come here to use our services. You did, and those services were always in paper. So it just has a different look about it, and it looks so crowded though. You didn't
Yes.
realize it at the time in terms of just being hemmed in with all the bookshelves and
Yeah.
and trying to find things when you're new. Okay, so in this one, there's stuff in these milk crates. There's so you had to know, okay, what's in the milk crates? Someone's looking for something, and then you have like the phone ringing while you're helping someone with that, and you have people. It was
Yeah.
quite interesting.
Yeah, and you can see here with the bookshelves and then the like shorter bookshelf with the pencil sharpener.
Yeah, I remember the pencil sharpener. Yep.
Yeah. We
So,
still have a pencil sharpener. It's on the desk that's in the reference room.
okay.
So if you need to sharpen pencils, it's there.
It's not the same one though.
No.
This is the kind you remember from school.
Yeah, like
So, and there's a sign here at the edge of the stacks. We can't read what it says though.
no.
It may say "do not reshelve" or something. We didn't like people to reshelve their own books because they put them out of order. so, so, yeah. So that's what it was like, and we're grateful to Chris Leedy for sending these. Because there aren't a lot of photo documents of the actual business of the library. You find a lot of, people picture if you open up, a branch or something like that. There's pictures of that, and there's pictures of some events, but the day-to-day business of what we did in the reference department doesn't exist in any other way from that period,
Yeah.
which was the end of the era into the digital was just starting then because we got our first computers in reference in 1986.
Oh, so just 2 years later.
Yeah, just 2 years later. Yeah,
Yeah, they were fascinating to go through.
yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot more than just these, but these were a good selection.
yep.
And do you have anything else?
No, I just happy to share them.
Yeah.
And share the way things have changed and and how we still do the same thing we did in those days, connect people to resources, but doing it in a very different way.
Yes.
A very different way. So
Yeah, now people can email in with their questions. They can do chat with a librarian
Yep,
for their
they can.
questions. Call. We have all sorts of ways now.
all sorts of ways. Back then it was you come in on your own 2 feet or you called. So that's what you did. So
Well, thank you for
You're
going
welcome.
over these. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to call the library. Or if you have questions about anything, call us at 570-348-3000. Feel free to watch the rest of Tales from the Albright that we have in video format on the YouTube channel. Feel free to listen to it on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think that's all I have. So thank you for watching. Feel free to email me at aloni@albright.org if you have any comments, suggestions for future episodes, anything you would like to know more about. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.